Contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Christ's College, Canterbury Amendment Bill, first reading.
Mr. Speaker,
Nikki Wagner.
I move that the Christ College Canterbury Amendment Bill be considered by the Government Administration Select Committee.
The question is the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. Call members' order of the day number 1.
Mental Health Compulsory Assessment and Treatment Amendment Bill, first reading.
Honourable Luamanaval Winnie Laban.
I move that the Mental Health Compulsory Assessment and Treatment Amendment Bill be now read a first time. Mr. Speaker, at the appropriate time I intend to move that the bill be referred for consideration by the Health Select Committee. Kia ora, talofa lava and warm Pacific greetings. It is my great pleasure to bring this bill to the attention of the House. The purpose of this bill is to strengthen and clarify the current legislation. In the 17 years since the Mental Health Compulsory Assessment and Treatment Act of 1992 was passed, the understanding, treatment and care of mental health patients has developed and improved. However, the law has stood still. This bill will address what is seen by many in the field as a gap in the current legislation. The gap relates to the role of families. The 1992 Act made limited provision for the involvement of families. This bill extends and strengthens the role of families of patients experiencing mental illness. Dr. Peter McGeorge, a psychiatrist and chair of the Mental Health Commission, summed up the issues this bill addresses when he wrote in a booklet on the legal framework for family inclusion in mental health services, "Everyone knows that families are important. However, understanding their importance in the recovery of family members who have experienced mental illness is only relatively recent." Dr. McGeorge went on to say the Mental Health Commission is concerned to see that families are included in mental health assessment and treatment processes of family members. This is because not only does it know that families can be of enormous assistance, but also recognises that families suffer along with their loved ones. Dr. McGeorge's views are echoed by other mental health service providers, support and consumer groups, and families that have loved ones in mental health care. During my preparation of this legislation, I have read and consulted widely. I met with Dr. Peter McGeorge and other psychiatrists, Dr. Jan Pryor, the Families Commissioner, staff and legal advisor of the Office of the Health and Disability Commissioner, Florence Leota, CEO of Supporting Families in Mental Illness New Zealand, Taone O'Regan, manager and members of Atareira, Mental Health Support for Families in Whānau, formerly the Schizophrenia Fellowship, and many others working in the mental health field. I've also listened to many consumers and many families that have had families in mental health care. There is wide approval from those for this bill. Let me now outline the specifics of this bill. The Mental Health Compulsory Assessment and Treatment Amendment Bill amends Section 7A of the Mental Health Compulsory Assessment and Treatment Act of 1992. Section 7A of the Act provides for family or whānau involvement with individuals who are being dealt with under the Act. Currently, the practitioner, usually a psychiatrist or a responsible clinician, must consult the whānau or family of the proposed patient or patient unless it is not reasonably practicable or is not in the best interest of the patient, determined after consultation with the patient. The practitioner must also apply any guidelines or standards set down by the Director General of Health. This bill adds two further subsections. The first, new subsection 6, seeks to clarify the entitlements of the family or whānau once the practitioner has decided to consult them. These entitlements include information about the particular illness in question, information about the likely effects of treatment, inclusion in the planning, implementation and review of care, consultation about discharge, and the right to seek a second opinion. The second new subsection 7 provides for inclusion to a certain degree whether or not the practitioner has made the decision to include the family. These include general information about mental illness, the ability to provide relevant information about the family member's history, and reinforces what other parts of the Act have already stipulated, including cultural, religious or ethnic factors and individuals' beliefs about the role of family or whānau. The point of these changes is, first and foremost, is to clarify the rights and responsibilities of families and whānau in relation to their family member being cared for under the Act. The legal advice received from the Ministry of Justice, courtesy of the Attorney General, the Honourable Chris Finlayson, on this bill, was to ensure that it was consistent with the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act 1990. It concluded that the bill appears to be consistent with the rights and freedoms affirmed by the Bill of Rights Act. We also received correspondence from Marie Schroff, the Privacy Commissioner, who supports the overall goal of this bill. Under this amended legislation, families and whānau have specific rights, such as those to information and care, about the care and treatment of their loved one, about the specific form of mental illness they are suffering, and about mental illness in general. With better access to information, families and whānau will be better informed about mental illness in general, and therefore better able to give support that in many cases will offer opportunities for recovery. Families and whānau would also have the right to be involved in all stages of care for their loved ones, including when that care should end. Importantly, they also have the right to seek a second opinion. The hope of this bill and these measures is that they will lead to a more informed and empowered family unit that will possess the tools to be more involved in the care of their loved one and more resilient in the face of mental illness. The ultimate goal is not just to assist in the recovery of the mental health patient, but also in the potentially beneficial side effect of creating more resilient and caring families. Greater involvement by family and whānau in the care of a mental health patient creates a win-win for all, including the professionals involved. Treatments that include a greater involvement of the patient's family have been shown to produce superior and stable outcomes and have significantly reduced symptoms and related problems, including family problems. There is good evidence that shows where families are involved in assessment and treatment, outcomes are improved for their family member. Family inclusion presents a far more holistic approach to mental health recovery, far from being focused solely on the individual in the context of care. This approach recognises that the needs of the individual experiencing mental illness must be met within the context of the family or the whānau. It focuses on the family's opportunities and abilities for change. While the focus on the individual rights of the patient are important, the value of individuals reconnecting with others and their families in particular are still underemphasised and undervalued. The therapeutic value of this needs to be strengthened in the ordinary routines of clinical practice. The Mental Health Commission commissioned a literature review on child and adolescent mental health and family inclusive practices in 2007. The review found that including families aids the therapeutic approach by including an insider's perspective on care. It creates a better understanding of the problem and agreement on treatment components, and with fewer internalising and externalising behaviours, improves clinical outcomes and reduces symptoms. These views receive strong support when workshopped around the country by the Mental Health Commission. The need for a change towards more family-inclusive practices in the care of mental health patients has been known for some time. In Te Kōkiri, the Mental Health and Addiction Action Plan 2006 to 2015, a Ministry of Health publication, two of the specific actions identified related to this area. The plan makes the call to implement initiatives that recognise the importance of family and whānau. It also calls for initiatives that respond to the needs of family and whānau, such as assessment and referral to appropriate supports and services, education on the recovery process, and the hearing of family views about the responsiveness of services. On a personal note, prior to entering Parliament, I worked as a family therapist and counsellor for over 20 years and served from 1993 to 1996 on the board of the Mental Health Foundation. It was my professional experience